You've heard the sentence, everybody has. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. It's near the most famous line ever written by an American hand. But almost nobody finishes the thought. Read the next words. They are endowed by their Creator, not by the king, not by the Congress writing them down, by their Creator. And that one word is carrying the whole weight of the building. Because here is the thing folks miss. If there's no God who made us, then all men are created equal isn't a self-evident truth at all. It's just a pretty wish, and the strong are free to ignore it. Pull out the Creator, and the most important sentence in this country's history has got nothing left to stand on.
Well, hello again, and come on in. I'm Grandma Rita.
And I'm Papa. Good to have you back with us.
Last time we walked the road to independence, 12 years of it, ending on a village green with farmers and their muskets, and a war nobody knew how to stop.
And once the fighting started, the colonists had to say in writing what they were fighting for. So they sat down and wrote the thing this whole country still stands on. Tonight, that's our chapter, the Declaration. And I want to do something particular with it.
Not just read it.
No, I want to show you where it gets its power, and I want to be honest about where the men who wrote it fell short of their own words, both, like always.
Then let's open it.
For more than a year after the first shots, many colonists still hoped to patch things up with Britain rather than make a final break. Two things ended that hope. The first was a blazing little pamphlet by Thomas Paine, Common Sense, which argued that it was absurd for a whole continent to be ruled forever by a distant island, and which sold by the hundreds of thousands. The second was the king himself. When the Congress sent a last petition pleading for peace, the Crown refused even to receive it, declared the colonies in rebellion, and hired foreign soldiers to put them down. A people may forgive a government a great deal, but it is hard to keep hoping for reunion with a ruler who answers a plea for peace by sending an army of hired strangers. The door was not only walked away from by the colonists, it was shut and barred from the other side. In July of 1776, the Congress adopted the Declaration. Most of the document is a long list of grievances against the king, set down to show a watching world that the colonists had borne much before resorting to revolt. But the part that changed history is the principle stated at the front. The colonists claimed their independence by appeal to the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. And then they made the boldest sentence in American history. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they went on, just as plainly, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
A king who answers a plea for peace by hiring strangers to come put you down. That'll end the hoping in a hurry.
It surely did, but notice what they reached for when the hoping ended. Not revenge, a principle. They could have just listed their wrongs and left it there. Instead, they stood up in front of the whole world and said what a human being is. That's a different kind of courage than the battlefield kind. Read that sentence again and notice where the rights come from. not from the king, not from Parliament, not from the Congress that was writing the words, from the Creator. A right that government did not give, government cannot justly take away. That single move is the deepest claim in all of American political thought, and it does not stand on its own. It rests on something older than the Declaration by thousands of years. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Genesis 1:27. Men are created equal because every person bears the image of God. Their equality is not a measurement of talent or strength or wealth, where people are plainly unequal, but a truth about their Maker, who stamped his image on every one of them. The same dignity has another root in the one origin of all peoples. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to inhabit all the face of the earth. Acts 17:26. Take away the Creator, and the great sentence has nothing left to stand on. If there is no God who made us, then all men are created equal is not a self-evident truth at all. It is a pleasant wish that the strong are free to ignore. The founders did not say men are equal because they looked equal. They said men are created equal, and the word created carries the whole weight.
JK, this is the part I'd want a young person to really sit with. Because the world tells them the opposite, doesn't it? That you earn your worth. That you're equal if you're smart enough, or strong enough, or useful enough.
And the Declaration says, no, you're not equal because you measure up. By any measure you can name, people are wildly unequal, faster, smarter, richer, stronger. The equality isn't down here in the measuring, it's up at the source. The same God stamped his own image on every last one of us, the newborn and the dying, the genius and the simple, the powerful and the forgotten.
So a man's worth isn't a thing he achieves.
It's a thing he's stamped with before he does one single thing. That's why nobody can hand it to you. And praise God, nobody can take it away. Pull the Creator out of that sentence, and the whole floor drops. There's nothing underneath all men are created equal, but God who created them. The document proclaiming that all men are created equal was written in part by men who held other men as slaves. Thomas Jefferson, who owned slaves even as he wrote those words, had put into his draft a passage condemning the slave trade, and the Congress struck it out, unwilling to indict a commerce that several of the states meant to keep. The words that survived were therefore both nobler and more honest than the men who wrote them. They declared a principle the signers themselves did not obey. Both facts must be held together, the noble claim and the ugly compromise, because the truth lives in their tension and not in either one alone. There is even a mercy hidden in the gap between the words and the men. By writing the principle larger than their own practice, the founders left behind a standard that could one day be turned against the very injustice they tolerated. In the century to come, the enslaved and those who labored to free them would not need to invent a new argument. They had only to hold the nation to the words it had already published to the world, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with rights no government may justly touch. A claim can convict the man who makes it.
And the book doesn't look away from the hard part. Some of the men who wrote it fell short of their own words.
They did. The words were better than the men who signed them. But that's the remarkable thing. They wrote the principle bigger than their own lives. And so it left a standard the whole nation could be held to, one day, by the very people it had failed. A claim can convict the man who makes it.
So the truth outlasted them.
It did. It always does. To put your name to such a document was an act of extraordinary daring. The signers closed by pledging to one another their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. They meant every word, without exaggeration, for if the war was lost, every name on the page was a confession of treason, punishable by death. They were not recording a victory already won. They were staking everything they had on a war they had every reason to fear they might lose. The freedom they reached for was real, and it was only a portion of a deeper freedom that no document can secure. The Declaration claimed liberty for a people. It could not give the liberty that matters most, the freedom of a soul set right with God, and the wisest of the founders knew the difference. It was for freedom that Christ set us free. Galatians 5:1.
Lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. They weren't being dramatic.
No, if they lost, every signature was a death warrant. They knew it when they signed. But here's where we need to add the last thing, the thing the wisest of them knew. The freedom they were staking their lives on was real, and it was good. But it wasn't the deepest freedom there is. A nation can declare you free. It cannot set your soul right with God. Only Christ does that. It was for freedom that Christ set us free, and that's a freedom no king could grant and no war could win. The book closes the chapter with an old Puritan, Thomas Watson, writing in 1692, long before there was any America to argue about. He's marveling at what a human being is. He calls man the masterpiece of this visible world, and he says this: on the king's coin his own image or effigy is stamped. So God stamped his image on man and made him partaker of many divine qualities.
The king's image on the coin, and God's image on the man.
That's the whole ground of it right there. A coin carries the king's likeness, and that mark doesn't add a thing to the silver. A man carries God's image, and that tells you whose he is. Not the king's, not the state's, God's own. Watson saw it in 1692. The Declaration leaned on it in 1776, and the psalmist sang it long before either one. What is man that you remember him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you crowned him with glory and majesty.
Crowned with glory and majesty. Every one of us.
Everyone. That's not a political opinion. That's the bedrock the whole country was built to stand on, whether it always remembered or not.
This chapter closes with a poem set to music from 1825 about the people who landed on that cold shore and would not turn the ship around. It belongs here for the same reason the signers do. They counted a faith worth more than their safety. We'll leave you with the first and the last of it.
What sought they thus afar? Bright jewels of the mine? The wealth of seas, the spoils of war? They sought a faith's pure shrine. Aye, call it holy ground, the soil where first they trod. They have left unstained what there they found, freedom to worship God. That's the Declaration, the promise. Next time, what it cost to keep it, the war itself, and the long, bloody price of the freedom they just put their names to.
If an education that holds faith and history together is what you want for your children or grandchildren, that's GraceHaven Academy. First link in the description.
And right under it, the booklet, free, like always. Read it on the site or sign up and we'll send the downloads straight to your inbox and keep you posted as the rest of this series comes out before the 4th.
Read it slow and read it together.
Thank you for sitting with us. We're glad you were here.